The biting wind shrieked across Colony Outpost 7 like a tormented beast, lashing Jack Harmon's weathered face with stinging shards of rain. The 42-year-old mechanic squinted, battling the downpour as he wrestled with loose workshop panels. Meteorologists had warned of the storm, but as usual, they'd gravely underestimated its raw fury. Jack's work-worn hands, rough from years of toil, fumbled with the magnetic locks, a powerful gust nearly tearing him from his precarious perch. "Should have stayed inside," he grumbled, tasting the coppery tang of the rain, a byproduct of the very atmospheric alchemy that made this former mining moon barely habitable. 16 years on this desolate sphere, and he still hadn't acclimated. With a final defiant twist, the panel secured. Jack stepped back, surveying his handiwork, when a blinding flash seared the darkened sky. He initially dismissed it as lightning, a common fury during these seasonal tempests. But the light lingered, an unnatural luminescence dancing erratically through the swirling clouds and sheeting rain. Through the tempest, he discerned a small spacecraft. Tumbling uncontrollably through the atmosphere, its stabilizers clearly fractured. The vessel trailed sparks and debris as it plunged toward the unforgiving rocky expanse beyond the colony's edge. His heart seized as he watched the inevitable impact, a distant thud confirming the fiery descent moments later. Jack faltered, his mind a whirlwind. Colony protocol mandated everyone remain indoors during severe weather alerts. The settlement authority would surely dispatch a rescue team, but frontier bureaucracy was agonizingly slow, and the occupants of that craft might not possess the luxury of patience. The spectral image of his late wife, Eliza, flashed through his thoughts. Gone 6 years, lost when her own transport malfunctioned en route to Mars, her desperate calls unanswered. "Dad," a small voice pierced the din from the workshop entrance. Jack spun around to find his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, peeking from the partially opened doorway, her eyes alight with an innocent wonder, not fear. "Just a bit of atmospheric mischief, Starshine," he reassured, forcing a smile. But Lily, sharp as her mother, saw through his facade. She pointed towards the fading glow on the horizon. "That looked like a ship, Dad. Is someone in trouble?" Jack exhaled. He could never conceal anything from his daughter. She possessed her mother's keen perception and unyielding spirit. "Perhaps," he admitted, "but the colony authority will handle it." Lily's expression hardened, a resolve uncharacteristic for her young face. "The same authority that took 3 days to fix Mrs. Yardley's life support last month?" Jack flinched, recalling the near-fatal freeze that had gripped the elderly woman before help arrived. "Someone could be hurt," Lily insisted, her voice firm. "You always say we have to help people when we can. It's what makes us human." Those were Eliza's words, not his. She'd been the family's bright idealist. He'd grown starkly pragmatic since her passing. Yet hearing their echo from his daughter's lips tightened something within his chest. "Stay here," he commanded, grabbing his emergency kit. "Lock up, and don't open for anyone but me." "But Dad!" "No arguments, Lily. I mean it." As Jack navigated the muddy thoroughfares of the settlement, the rain a relentless assault on his weatherproof jacket, he questioned his own sanity. The colonists glimpsing him through their windows would surely deem him mad, venturing out in this maelstrom. Perhaps he was. The colony's perimeter fence was designed to deter the indigenous wildlife 6-limbed creatures akin to wolves and lizards, rather than to contain its human inhabitants. The gate's simple lock yielded readily to Jack's colony ID. Beyond the settlement's confines, the terrain grew treacherous. The moon's surface was a stark tapestry of rock and hardened clay, punctuated by sparse, resilient, spiky vegetation adapted to the unforgiving environment. The storm had transformed normally dry ravines into surging torrents, forcing Jack to leap across. He followed the faint smoke trail for nearly 40 minutes before discovering the crash site. The vessel was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Sleek, almost organic in its design, its iridescent hull pulsing faintly despite the damage. Clearly, it was not human technology. The craft had gouged a deep scar in the earth before lodging against a cluster of boulders. Jack approached with caution. First contact protocols existed, but for most colonists, they remained theoretical. Humanity had explored the stars for a century, yet had encountered no sentient alien life, at least not officially. Whispers, of course, circulated among freight haulers and deep space miners. A section of the hull had ripped open, forming a jagged egress. Something, or someone, had already exited the wreckage. Jack swept his flashlight beam across the crash site, the light. As he cautiously approached, Jack's breath hitched, revealing a figure prone on the ground, several yards from the crashed vessel. To his astonishment, the being was unmistakably female. She lay on her back, her skin a pale green that shimmered with an ethereal luminescence. Instead of hair, a crown of delicate, tendril-like appendages framed her face, each tipped with a faint, multicolored glow. Her features, while startlingly human-like, possessed a subtle, alien beauty: high cheekbones, a straight nose, and lips tinged with blue. She wore what appeared to be armor, crafted from a material that flowed like liquid metal over her slender form. Jack knelt beside her, medical scanner in hand. To his surprise, the device registered life signs, unusual yet robust enough to assure him she was not in immediate peril. As the scanner's light swept across her face, her eyes snapped open, and Jack found himself gazing into irises that swirled with unnameable colors. The alien woman gasped, scrambling backward, her hand reaching for a device on her hip. Her movements were fluid, despite her evident injuries. "Whoa!" Jack raised his hands, palms open. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help." The woman paused, studying him intently. When she spoke, her voice carried a musical quality, with tones that layered like an ancient melody. "You speak the trade language," she stated, surprise coloring her words. "This system is registered as pre-contact." Jack blinked, confused. "I'm speaking standard English." She touched a small device near her throat. "Universal translator. Standard issue for the exploratory course." Her expression hardened. "Are you an official representative of your colony?" "No," Jack replied. I saw your ship crash. Thought you might need help." Her gaze softened slightly. "A good Samaritan, then. Fascinating." She attempted to stand but winced and fell back. "My ship's emergency beacon will summon assistance eventually." Suddenly, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the landscape, immediately followed by a deafening crack of thunder. The storm was intensifying. "You can't stay out here," Jack said firmly. "That armor of yours might be fancy, but this moon's storms are no joke. The atmospheric chemicals can cause severe burns if you're exposed too long." As if to emphasize his warning, a drop of rain sizzled as it landed on the exposed metal of her damaged armor. The alien woman looked toward her ship, then back at Jack. "I have little choice but to accept your assistance, it seems." She inclined her head formally. "I am Tyraos Astralar, third son of the celestial throne of Astraan." Jack wasn't sure what to make of the elaborate introduction, but recognized authority when he heard it. He offered a slight bow in return. "Jack Harmon, mechanic, Colony Outpost 7. He hesitated before adding, "Can you walk, Your Highness?" Tyra attempted to stand again, succeeded briefly, then stumbled. Jack caught her arm to steady her, surprised by how light she felt despite her height. Her skin was warm to the touch and seemed to vibrate slightly, like a resonating tuning fork. "Perhaps," she said with obvious reluctance, "I might require more assistance than I initially assessed." That was as close to asking for help as she was likely to get, Jack suspected. He awkwardly positioned himself to support her weight, and they began the slow journey back toward the colony. "My daughter's going to have a lot of questions," Jack warned, as they trudged through the increasingly violent storm. "She's never met an alien before." Tyra stiffened slightly. "Your offspring resides with you, of course? Where else would she be?" "In my culture, children are raised in communal education centers until adulthood." She paused. "Is your mate also present in your dwelling?" Jack's jaw tightened. "My wife died 6 years ago." "I see." Tyra was quiet for a moment. "My condolences on your loss, Jack Harmon." They walked in silence after that, focusing on navigating the treacherous terrain. By the time they reached the colony's perimeter, Jack was half carrying the alien woman, her strength seemingly diminished with each passing minute. "We need to be discreet," Jack muttered as they approached the gate. "The settlement authority has strict protocols for off-world visitors, and I'm pretty sure they don't cover this situation." Tyra nodded weakly. "I understand. My presence here is complicated." Jack swiped his ID and guided her through the gate. Fortunately, the violent weather had driven everyone indoors, and they encountered no one on their way back to his workshop. The modest 2-story structure served as both his business and home, with living quarters on the upper level. When they reached the door, Jack hesitated. "My daughter, I will not harm your child," Tyra said, seeming offended by the implication. "The protection of the young is sacred across all civilized species." Jack nodded and pushed the door open. "Lily, it's me, and I've brought a visitor." There was a moment of silence before the workshop's interior door burst open. Lily stood there, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her eyes widening to an astonishing degree. Gazing at the towering, verdant woman beside her father, Lily whispered, utterly speechless for perhaps the first time. "I am Tyra Vos Astralar," the alien woman offered, struggling to steady herself despite obvious discomfort, identifying herself as the third heir to Astria's celestial throne. Lily's eyes widened, then she beamed. "You're from space? A real alien? Are you a pilot? What kind of ship do you have? How fast can it go? Can you show me how it works?" Jack cleared his throat. "Lily, perhaps give our guest some breathing room. She's injured." Lily's expression immediately softened with concern. "I'll get the medical kit," she exclaimed, dashing away. Tyra regarded Jack with curiosity. "Your offspring seems unusually thrilled by extraterrestrial contact." As Jack guided her to the worn living room couch, he explained, "Lily is captivated by space travel, a fascination since she could gaze at the stars." He smiled ruefully. "Not exactly the most practical aspiration for a child on a struggling colony." "Dreams rarely align with practicality," Tyra observed, wincing as she settled in. "Yet they persist." Lily returned with the kit and towels. "I've got everything. Dad and I found Mom's old clothes. They might fit." Jack looked at Tyra, who stood significantly taller than Eliza had. "We'll manage," he said kindly. "Let's tend to those injuries first." As Jack cleaned and bandaged the alien's wounds, which seemed to mend with astonishing speed, Lily peppered Tyra with questions. To Jack's surprise, Tyra answered each patiently, though she sometimes used terms that mystified them both. "So your ship travels faster than light?" Lily asked, her eyes sparkling. "The Astral Whisper utilizes gravitational fold technology," Tyra explained. "Rather than exceeding light speed, which your physicists correctly theorize is impossible for matter, we generate a transient dimensional pocket, allowing us to bypass conventional space entirely." Lily nodded thoughtfully, as if this were perfectly logical, like a shortcut. Tyra's lips curved slightly in what might have been amusement. A crude, but not entirely inaccurate comparison. "Can you teach me to fly it?" Lily inquired. Jack, finishing the bandages, added, "I believe Her Highness needs to rest." "Actually," Tyra stated, "I must return to my vessel." Protocols must be initiated. Security measures. She attempted to rise, but swayed precariously. Jack caught her arm. "You're not going anywhere tonight," he stated firmly. "That storm is intensifying, and you can barely stand." Tyra appeared poised to object, but then seemed to reconsider. "Perhaps a brief period of recuperation would be wise," she conceded. "My ship's cloaking systems should ensure concealment for the immediate future." "You can have my room," Lily offered eagerly. "I can sleep on the couch," Jack began to protest. But Tyra inclined her head towards his daughter. "Your generosity honors you, young one." And so, in a twist Jack could never have foreseen that morning, he found himself preparing his daughter's small bedroom for an alien visitor who claimed to be royalty from an unknown star system. "Dad," Lily whispered as they gathered fresh bedding, "do you think her people will come looking for her?" The question gave Jack pause. He hadn't considered the ramifications of sheltering a potentially significant alien dignitary. "I'm sure they will," he replied cautiously, "which is precisely why this must remain our secret, for now. Okay? No telling your friends, your teacher, anyone." Lily mimed zipping her lips. "Promise." But her expression grew thoughtful. What if she's running from something? Like in those adventure stories where the princess flees an evil empire. Jack ruffled her hair. "I suspect you've been watching too many fantasy programs, Starshine. Not everything is a grand adventure." Yet as they settled into Lily's room, Jack couldn't ignore the way the alien woman kept glancing anxiously out the window, her tendrils shifting through colors that somehow conveyed unease. She was afraid of something, or someone. "I'll check on you in the morning," Jack said, preparing to leave her to rest. "Should you require anything during the night, I shall manage," Tyra assured him. She hesitated, then added, "Your kindness will not be forgotten, Jack Harmon. When my people arrive, you will be rewarded." After tucking Lily in on the couch with extra blankets, Jack retired to his own room, though sleep remained elusive. His thoughts kept returning to the crashed vessel and its extraordinary pilot. Colony protocol demanded he report the incident immediately to the settlement authority. Harboring an unregistered alien was a grave offense, potentially costing him his business license, or worse. Yet something held him back. Perhaps it was the way Tyra had looked at Lily, with a wistful curiosity suggesting children were a rarity in her world. Or maybe it was simply the sheer impossibility of it all. For the first time in years, he'd seen his daughter truly captivated. Jack, pulled from his thoughts by a soft rap at his door, opened it to find Lily clutching her beloved stuffed rocket, its plush worn from countless adventures. "Can't sleep, Starshine?" Lily, her voice a whisper, asked, "Do you think she's really a princess?" Jack pondered for a moment. "She certainly acts the part," he finally said, a smile touching his lips. "Very regal." Lily's eyes sparkled. "I think she's beautiful," she declared, "even if she is green." Jack chuckled. "That's a very open-minded way to look at it." "Mom always said we should judge people by their actions, not their appearance," Lily stated solemnly. Jack's smile softened. "She did, didn't she?" Lily's voice grew hushed. "Dad, do you think Tyra will let me see her ship before she leaves? I've never seen a real spaceship up close, only the colony shuttles and supply freighters." Jack sighed. "I don't know, Lily. Her ship sounds pretty damaged, and once the authorities find out she's here. But we won't tell them, right? You promised." "For now," Jack agreed. "But this isn't something we can keep hidden forever, Starshine. Eventually, someone will notice." Lily's expression turned defiant. "The colony authority will just lock her up and study her like a science experiment. Mrs. Hodges says that's what happens to aliens in all the old Earth movies." Jack had to bite back a smile at the thought of the elderly schoolteacher drawing educational parallels from classic sci-fi. "Real life isn't always like the movies, Lily," he said gently. Sometimes it's worse, she replied with a maturity that belied her years. Jack couldn't argue. Go to sleep, Starshine. We'll figure it all out in the morning. But morning brought its own set of complications. Jack awoke to find Lily and Tira in the kitchen, his daughter perched on a stool, watching with fascination as the alien examined their food synthesizer with evident disdain. Your nutrition technology is remarkably primitive, Tira stated, her tendrils shifting subtly. This device cannot possibly provide adequate molecular restructuring for proper nutrient balance. It makes pretty good pancakes, though, Lily offered helpfully. Jack cleared his throat. Good morning. Tira turned, her tendrils now a soft blue hue. Her wounds seemed to have healed considerably overnight, and she moved with a newfound ease. She had changed into the clothes Lily had offered, a simple tunic and pants that had belonged to Eliza, though they were indeed too short for her tall frame. Your offspring has been educating me about your colony's customs and technology, Tira said. She is remarkably knowledgeable for one so young. Lily beamed with pride. I told her about the atmospheric processors and the terraforming project and the hydroponic gardens, and about Mom's work on the botanical research team. Jack felt a pang at the mention of Eliza's work. She had been instrumental in developing vegetation strains capable of surviving the moon's harsh environment, work largely abandoned after her death due to budget cuts. I need to return to my ship, Tira said, drawing Jack's attention back to more pressing matters. There are systems that must be secured, and my people will be searching for me. The storms have passed, Jack acknowledged, but the terrain will be treacherous after all that rain. I'll come too, Lily volunteered eagerly. Jack started to refuse automatically, but Tira spoke first. Your assistance would be appreciated, young Lily, she said formally. I find your knowledge of local conditions most valuable. Lily shot a triumphant look at her father, who sighed in defeat. Fine, but you stay with me at all times. Understood? They set out after breakfast, Jack carrying a toolkit in case emergency repairs were needed on Tira's ship. The alien woman moved with increasing confidence as they walked, her natural grace becoming more evident as her injuries healed. Your regenerative capabilities are impressive, Jack observed as they navigated around a particularly deep puddle. Most humans would still be bedridden with injuries like yours. Astrians evolved on a high-radiation world, Tira explained. Cellular repair mechanisms became essential for survival. It is one of our species' advantages. But what are the others? Lily asked, hopping over a smaller puddle. Tira's tendril shifted to a thoughtful purple. We possess heightened sensory perception, particularly in relation to electromagnetic fields. Our lifespans are considerably longer than your species, and we have certain psychic abilities. Jack almost stumbled. Psychic? Like mind reading? Nothing so crude, Tira said, with what might have been amusement. We can sense emotional states and, with training, influence them slightly. It is primarily used in diplomacy. Can you read my emotions? Lily asked excitedly. Your feelings are quite clear without any special abilities, Tira replied. You project your thoughts with remarkable transparency. Dad says I'm an open book, Lily agreed cheerfully. But he's super hard to read. Mom always said he had a poker face. Tira glanced at Jack, her gaze lingering for a moment. Indeed, your father's emotional control is quite unusual for your kind. Jack shifted uneasily beneath her gaze. He had mastered keeping his feelings contained after Eliza's passing, partly for Lily's well-being, and partly for his own solace. Upon reaching the crash site, the astral whisper appeared remarkably altered in daylight, its hull gleaming with vibrant, shifting colors like iridescent oil on water. Despite its damaged state, it was undeniably a stunning vessel. Tira approached her ship, placing her hand upon its hull, causing a section to ripple and reveal an opening. She turned to the humans. I must attend to internal systems. You are welcome to enter, but please refrain from touching anything without my consent. Lily needed no further invitation and started forward eagerly, only to be gently restrained by Jack's hand on her shoulder. "Are you certain that's safe?" he inquired. Tira's expression softened. The vessel recognizes her as non-threatening. While it possesses automatic defense systems, they will not engage a child. Inside, the ship was both smaller and larger than Jack had anticipated. The interior seemed to defy conventional spatial laws, with curving corridors that suggested the vessel's dimensions surpassed its visible exterior. "Dimensional engineering," Tira explained, noticing Jack's bewilderment. "The interior exists partially within a pocket of folded space." "It's bigger on the inside," Lily exclaimed with delight. "A rather rudimentary, yet not entirely inaccurate comparison," Tira replied, echoing her words from the previous night. The control center was unlike any cockpit Jack had ever encountered. Instead of visible instruments or displays, there was a central platform surrounded by flowing, organic-looking structures. "How do you fly it?" Lily asked, gazing around in wonder. Tira stepped onto the platform, and instantly, holographic displays bloomed in the air, while the tendrils on her head extended, seeming to connect with the flowing structures. "Astrarian vessels are partially organic," she explained, as the displays flickered with data beyond Jack's comprehension. "They establish a neural link with their pilots." "That's incredible," Lily breathed. "So the ship is like a part of you, in a way?" "The primary fold drive is damaged beyond my capacity to repair with our current resources," Tira stated, frowning at one of the displays. "The emergency beacon is functional, but—" She trailed off, her expression troubled. "But what?" Jack prompted. Tira seemed to weigh her thoughts before responding. "The beacon's signal could be intercepted by entities other than my people, entities that would not have your best interests, or mine, at heart." "You're in trouble, aren't you?" Lily asked directly. "Someone was chasing you. That's why you crashed." Tira's tendrils flashed a brief red before settling into a deep purple. "A perceptive child," she murmured. She turned to Jack. "I have not been entirely truthful about my circumstances. My presence in your system was not officially sanctioned." "You're a runaway princess," Lily declared with satisfaction. "I knew it." "Not precisely," Tira corrected. "I am indeed the third scion of the Celestial Throne, but my journey was undertaken in secret because the Astrarian High Council refused to acknowledge a grave threat to both our civilizations." Jack crossed his arms. "What sort of threat?" "There is a faction within the Galactic Concord, an alliance of spacefaring civilizations that believes emergent species should be managed," Tira explained, her expression hardening. "They call themselves the Shepherds. Their methods involve infiltration, sabotage, and engineered disasters to maintain control over developing worlds, keeping them dependent. And humanity is one of these emergent species," Jack stated skeptically. "Your world reached space barely a century ago," Tira pointed out. "In galactic terms, you are infants. Promising infants, perhaps, but vulnerable. What does that have to do with you crashing on our moon? I discovered evidence that the Shepherds have agents within your solar system. I came to investigate, against the explicit orders of the High Council, who favor a policy of non-intervention." Tira's tendrils coiled tightly against her head. "My ship was damaged when I attempted to evade a Shepherd patrol near your outer planets." Jack ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process the information. "So these Shepherds, they're the villains." "Their intentions are complex," Tira admitted. "They genuinely believe they are protecting younger species from making catastrophic mistakes, but their methods are paternalistic at best, tyrannical at worst. And they might have followed you here," Jack concluded grimly. "It is possible," Tira acknowledged. "If so, your colony could be in danger. The Shepherds prefer to operate in secrecy, but they will eliminate witnesses if necessary." "Lily," who had been unusually quiet throughout this exchange, suddenly spoke up. "We have to warn everyone. We need to think carefully," Jack interrupted. "Who's going to believe us?" "Hey everyone, the alien princess staying in my spare room says invisible see. The pace manipulators are closing in. They'll surely believe we've lost all reason," Tira stated, her voice a blend of assurance and urgency. "Your apprehension is natural," she continued, "but this peril is undeniably real." Suddenly, a piercing alarm erupted from a holographic display, causing Tira's tendrils to flash a vivid crimson as she swiftly interfaced with the ship's core systems. "Report!" Jack commanded, instinctively drawing Lily closer. "A vessel has entered orbit above your moon," Tira announced grimly. "Its energy signature bears the unmistakable mark of Shepard design." "Could it be searching for something else?" Jack posited, though a sinking certainty told him the answer. Tira shook her head. "Its trajectory confirms it's homing in on my beacon." With a decisive gesture, she silenced the alarm. "I have deactivated the signal, but it's far too late. They know I am here." "What do we do now?" Lily whispered, her earlier excitement dissolving into palpable fear. Tira remained still for a moment, her tendrils shifting through a spectrum of hues as she seemingly weighed their options. "I must complete the repairs to my ship's stealth capabilities," she declared finally. "Once those are functional, I can evade detection long enough to reach the Estrian outpost in the Kuiper Belt. From there, I can summon reinforcements." "How long will those repairs take?" Jack inquired. "With your aid, perhaps 2 of your planetary cycles," Tira replied. "And in the interim," Jack added, "the Shepards will dispatch scouts to investigate the beacon's last known position." Tira's expression grew grave. "They will discover the crash site and initiate a search of the surrounding territory, including your colony." A shiver traced its way down Jack's spine. "They'll be coming for you, won't they?" "Indeed," Tira confirmed, "and their methods of inquiry will be far from gentle." A firm resolve settled upon Jack. "Then we must conceal you elsewhere, somewhere they wouldn't possibly think to look." "Where?" Lily questioned. Jack's mind raced. "The old mining tunnels. They're engineered for structural integrity, which might just block whatever scanning technology these Shepards employ. And I know those tunnels better than anyone in the colony." During his initial years on the moon, before Lily's birth, Jack had toiled as a maintenance technician within the mines. Though the operation had been abandoned when the ore veins depleted, the intricate network of tunnels remained largely overlooked by the colony's more recent inhabitants. "A logical proposition," Tira conceded. "However, my vessel will require concealment." Jack turned to Lily. "Remember that adhesive netting your mother was developing for the vertical gardens?" Lily's eyes brightened as she nodded. "The material that shifts color to blend with its environment? We still have some in the storage room at home." "We'll need every bit of it," Jack stated, "and a few of those native vine seedlings your mother preserved." A tentative plan began to coalesce. They would drape the ship with the adaptive netting, then transplant the fast-growing native vines around it. Within mere hours, the vessel would be indistinguishable from an unusual rock formation, cloaked in lush vegetation. "Your solution is quite ingenious," Tira acknowledged, "but it merely grants us time." "Time is precisely what we need," Jack assured her, his outward confidence masking an inner tremor. 2 days, you said? We can manage that." They dedicated the remainder of the day to executing their plan, with Lily proving surprisingly adept at handling the delicate seedlings. By late afternoon, the astral whisper was all but invisible beneath its naturalistic camouflage. "Now for Phase 2, Jack announced, wiping sweat from his brow. "Getting you to the mining tunnels without being detected." They waited until dusk, when the colony's artificial illumination cast deep shadows between the structures. Jack had procured a hooded cloak for Tira, though it did little to mask her striking height. Keep your head down, he instructed as they neared the settlement's periphery. And if anyone approaches, allow me to handle the conversation. The derelict mining complex lay a quarter-mile beyond the colony's northern frontier. The primary entrance had been sealed years prior, but Jack knew of a maintenance access point that remained functional, provided one possessed the correct codes. They had almost reached the outskirts when a colony security patrol emerged from around a bend ahead. Jack felt Lily stiffen beside him, while Tira drew her cloak more tightly around her face. "Evening, Harmon," called one of the officers, a stocky man named Briggs, whom Jack recognized from community gatherings. "A bit late for a family outing, isn't it?" Jack manufactured a casual smile. "Just showing Lily some of the native flora. She's working on a school project about her mother's research." Briggs's demeanor softened at the mention of Eliza. "Ah, following in her footsteps, is she? Good for you, kid." He cast a curious glance at the tall, cloaked figure. "Who's your friend?" "My cousin," Jack lied smoothly. "Visiting from Outpost 3. She's, allergic to the atmospheric compounds, hence the cloak." Briggs nodded sympathetically. "Nasty reactions, those allergies. My brother had the same issue when he first arrived. You should get her some of those immunotherapy shots they're offering at the medical center." "We'll look into that," Jack promised, eager to conclude the exchange. Briggs was on the verge of moving on when his comm unit emitted a beep. He lifted it to his ear and listened for a moment. He furrowed his brow, a sense of unease creeping in. "Strange," he muttered. "Central's reporting unusual orbital activity, unscheduled ships, weird energy signatures." He shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. "Probably just solar flare interference again. Those detectors are always acting up." Jack struggled to maintain his relaxed facade, determined to project calm. "Anything to worry about?" "Nah," Briggs scoffed, but his tone lacked conviction. "They're beefing up patrols tonight, just in case. You folks should head home. New curfew's in effect. Everyone indoors by 2100. "We will," Jack assured him. "Just a quick look at the phosphorescent moss near the old mining complex, then straight home." As the patrol moved on, Jack exhaled slowly, realizing he'd been holding his breath. Beside him, Taylor's tendrils had flattened against her head, beneath her concealing cloak, a clear sign of her growing anxiety. "They suspect something's going on," she whispered, her voice barely audible once the officers were out of range. "The shepherds must have contacted your orbital stations." "Is that bad?" Lily asked, her voice hushed. "It means they're acting openly, not through deception," Taylor replied grimly. "They're confident." They reached the abandoned mining complex without further incident. The maintenance access point was cleverly concealed behind a cluster of dilapidated equipment sheds, left to rust when the mining operation was shuttered. Jack punched a series of numbers into a corroded panel, and a section of the ground silently slid open, revealing a narrow staircase leading into the inky depths. "Wow," Lily breathed, her eyes wide with surprise. "I didn't know this was here." "Not many people do," Jack said, leading the way down the steps. "Your mother and I used to come here sometimes after work. It was our secret place." The tunnels were frigid and damp, but the life support system, a relic of the moon's more prosperous past, still sputtered to life. Jack activated the emergency lighting, bathing the tunnel in an eerie blue glow. "There's a security office about half a mile in," he explained to Taylor. "It's isolated from the main systems and has its own power supply. You should be safe there while you work on your ship." As they navigated the winding tunnels, Lily peppered Taylor with questions about her homeworld, her ship, and the Galactic Concord. The alien woman answered patiently, though Jack noted she skillfully avoided certain topics, particularly those concerning Astrian weaponry or defense capabilities. The security office was a compact, bunker-like room equipped with the bare necessities: a cot, a desk, a few chairs, and an antiquated terminal still connected to the mining complex's isolated systems. Jack started the backup generator, and the room hummed with renewed energy. "It's not much," he apologized. "But it should keep you hidden." "It will suffice," Taylor said, removing her cloak. In the blue light, her green skin seemed to radiate an otherworldly glow. "I am in your debt, Jack Harmon, for your continued aid." "We should head back before curfew," Jack said, glancing at his chronometer. "But we'll bring you supplies in the morning. Is there anything specific you need?" Taylor paused, considering. "Certain rare minerals would accelerate my repairs, but I doubt your colony possesses them. Otherwise, basic sustenance will suffice. My metabolism can adapt to your food, with minor discomfort. I'll bring you breakfast," Lily promised eagerly as they prepared to leave. Taylor reached out, gently gripping Jack's arm. "You understand the gravity of the risk you're taking," she said quietly, careful not to let Lily overhear. "If the shepherds discover your involvement—" "I understand," Jack interrupted, his voice firm. "But I can't just stand by and do nothing. Not again." Taylor's tendrils subtly shifted to a soft amber hue. "Your mate. You believe you failed her." It wasn't a question, but an observation. Jack gently pulled his arm away. "We should go. Curfew." They arrived back at the colony just as the warning sirens wailed, signaling the impending curfew. The streets were almost deserted, most colonists already locked safely inside their homes. As they hurried toward their workshop, Jack noticed an unfamiliar ship parked near the administration building. Sleek and dark, it bore no visible markings. "That's not one of ours," he murmured to Lily, a knot forming in his stomach. "Stay close." They were almost at their workshop when the door to the administration building swung open and 3 figures emerged. The colony administrator, usually radiating confidence, was flanked by 2 imposing strangers. Even from a distance, something about the visitors seemed off. They were humanoid in form, but moved with an unsettling fluidity, their perfectly tailored suits appearing to absorb, rather than reflect, the streetlights. "Shepherds," Taylor hissed from beneath her cloak, her voice tight with alarm. "We must not be seen." Jack quickly pulled them into the shadows between 2 buildings as the group strode by on the main thoroughfare. He caught snippets of their conversation. "Unusual energy signature. Crashed vessel of unknown origin. Full cooperation of your people." The colony administrator looked distinctly uneasy. "Of course, inspectors, whatever you require. But I assure you, if there were alien visitors to our colony, I would be informed immediately." One of the strangers abruptly turned his head, his gaze sweeping the shadows where Jack, Lily, and Taylor were concealed. For a heart-stopping moment, Jack was convinced they had been discovered. After a narrow escape, the group swiftly retreated to the visitor quarters. "That was incredibly close," Jack whispered, his voice strained as the search party faded from earshot. They made it back to the workshop without incident. Inside, Tira shed her cloak, her luminous tendrils writhing with agitation. "They arrived with alarming speed," she stated, voice edged with urgency, "and have already established a presence with your leadership." Lily, her earlier wonder now tinged with apprehension, asked, "What do they want?" "Me primarily," Tyra replied, her gaze somber, "but also any advanced technology that might propel your species' development beyond their acceptable timeline." "Why does it matter if we develop faster?" Jack pressed, his brow furrowed. Tira's expression turned grave. "Because species progressing too quickly tend to join the galactic concord as equals, not dependents. The shepherds vehemently prefer the latter." "So what's our next move?" Jack asked. "Those inspectors will systematically search the colony by morning," Tyra stated. "I must accelerate my repairs. With your help, perhaps we can complete them by tomorrow night, not waiting another agonizing day." "I need to be at the workshop during the day," Jack clarified. "If I vanish, it'll raise suspicions." But Lily, his bright-eyed daughter, eagerly volunteered. "I can help. No school tomorrow, teacher training day." Jack frowned. Absolutely not, Lily. I'm not sending you alone into those tunnels with shepherds prowling. The child faces no risk in my presence, Tyra assured him calmly. Her assistance could prove valuable. She has a natural aptitude for complex systems. She's 8, Jack worried. I'm almost 9, Lily corrected indignantly. And I help Mom with her research. She said I had a talent for seeing patterns. Jack hesitated, torn between protective instinct and desperate urgency. If shepherds were truly so perilous, every stranded moment amplified danger. Fine, he finally relented, his decision heavy. But you will adhere to every one of Tyra's instructions. Understood? No wandering off, no experiments, nothing without explicit permission. I promise, Lily declared solemnly, though the excited gleam in her eyes saw the crisis more as thrilling adventure than genuine peril. That night, after Lily slept on the couch, Jack sat at the kitchen table with Tyra, their voices hushed. These shepherds, he began low. How truly dangerous are they? Tyra's tendrils shifted to a chilling, fathomless blue. They deem themselves benevolent guides, not conquerors. They rarely resort to overt violence unless provoked, but they employ extreme measures to maintain their proper order of development, including calculated sabotage. Sabotage, Jack echoed slowly, horror dawning. Like causing accidents? Tyra's gaze held his. Your mate's death. You suspect it was not truly an accident? Jack had never voiced this insidious suspicion, not even to himself. Yet something about the transport malfunction that killed Eliza had never felt right. The investigation concluded it was a cascade failure in guidance systems, a 1 in a million occurrence, no discernible cause. Her research, he murmured, voice laced with dread. She developed plant species thriving in extreme conditions, strains potentially accelerating terraforming by decades, making colonies like ours self-sufficient years ahead of schedule. Such advancements, Tyra confirmed, voice devoid of emotion, would severely disrupt the Shepherd's planned timeline for human development. They'd categorize it as dangerous acceleration. Jack's hands clenched. So they murdered her, to slow us down. I cannot confirm that specific incident was their doing, Tyra stated carefully, her tendrils pulsing somberly. But it aligns with their methods. A cold, hard anger settled in Jack's chest. Not the expected overwhelming rage, but something focused and unyielding. If these shepherds had stolen Eliza, left Lily without her mother, all for some callous cosmic timetable. We're going to stop them, he declared, voice resolute. Not just ensure your escape. We'll expose them, make sure they can never do this again. Tyra's tendrils shifted to a hue Jack hadn't seen, vibrant gold. Such defiance, Jack Harmon, would carry significant risk. I'm aware, Jack replied, gaze unwavering, but some things are worth the risk. The alien woman studied him, then inclined her head in a gesture conveying both respect and agreement. Then we shall require a more ambitious plan, she stated, voice resolute. One that not only ensures my escape, but reveals the Shepherd's interference to both your people and the Galactic Concord. They spent the next hour outlining a dangerous, yet effective strategy. By the time they finished, Jack felt an unsettling mix of dread and exhilaration. What they were planning might save not just Tyra, but potentially the independence of human colonies throughout the solar system. The next morning, Jack walked Lily partway to the mining complex, giving detailed instructions, making her repeat them back to him. Jack ensured his daughter truly grasped the peril ahead. Stay in the tunnels, Lily dutifully echoed, her small voice a stark contrast to the gravity of the words. Don't let anyone see you enter or exit. Don't tell a soul where you're going or what you're doing. And be back before sunset, no matter what. Jack pulled her close, his embrace tight, almost a plea. That's my girl, Be careful, Starshine. I will, Dad. Lily's brow furrowed, her young face serious. Will you be okay with the shepherds looking around and everything? I'll be fine, Jack reassured her, forcing a calm he didn't feel. Just a typical day at the repair shop. Nothing at all suspicious. Yet his day was anything but normal. Mid-morning, the familiar chime of the door sliced through the quiet, and Jack's gaze snapped up to find the two figures from last night now standing within his workspace. Up close, their wrongness was chillingly apparent. They possessed human forms, yes, but their movements were unnervingly precise, their expressions devoid of genuine emotion, utterly calculated. Their suits, which had seemed merely black from a distance, now revealed subtle, living patterns that subtly shifted and flowed across the fabric. Jack Harmon, the taller one stated, not a question, but a flat declaration. We understand you operate a repair business. Jack wiped grease from his hands onto a rag, buying precious seconds to steady his hammering heart. That's right. Mechanical repairs, mostly. Some electronics. How can I help you? We are conducting a survey of technological capabilities within the colony. The second inspector's voice resonated, eerily melodious. Part of a resource assessment for potential infrastructure improvements. Sounds important, Jack replied, striving for a neutral tone. Though I'm not sure my little shop has much to offer in that department. The first inspector began to move, gliding through the workshop, his gaze sweeping over tools and components with an unsettling, analytical intensity. You previously worked in the mining operation, did you not? Jack's stomach clenched. That was years ago, before they shut it down. Yet you maintain knowledge of the complex's systems? Access codes, perhaps? Again, not a question, but Jack answered anyway. Basic stuff, nothing special. The place has been abandoned for ages. The second inspector's attention drifted to a framed photo on Jack's workbench. Eliza, radiant, holding a 3-year-old Lily, both beaming in the colony's small hydroponics garden. Your mate, he observed, Eliza Harmon, a botanical researcher of some note. Her work on accelerated adaptation of Earth species to extraterrestrial environments was remarkable. The word, in his unnaturally smooth delivery, twisted into something akin to dangerous. She died 6 years ago, Jack stated, his voice flat. Transport accident, yes, the inspector concurred, his gaze still fixed on the image. Most unfortunate. Her research died with her, I understand. No colleagues to continue her work. Jack's mind flashed to the clever, hardy seedlings they'd used to camouflage Tierra's ship, species Eliza had cultivated, then deemed impractical by colony administration after her death. Budget cuts, he offered. Priorities shifted. Quite sensible, the inspector replied, his words laced with a chilling undertone. Some avenues of research are best explored slowly, cautiously. Rushing leads to accidents. Jack, who had never thought himself a violent man, felt a sudden visceral urge to shatter the creature's impassive face against his workbench. Instead, he forced a bland, accommodating smile. Was there something specific you needed repaired? The inspectors exchanged a glance, a silent communication far more profound than a simple look. Actually, the first one began, we were hoping you might assist us with a search operation. There have been reports of unusual activity in the area surrounding the colony. Given your familiarity with the terrain, I mostly stick to the established paths, Jack cut in, his voice firm. Haven't done much exploring since my wife died. Too busy with work and raising my daughter. Your offspring, the second inspector echoed. Where is she at present? Jack's heart seized, but he managed to keep his face a neutral mask. School project. At a friend's house. Some kind of science thing. Kids, you know. Indeed, the inspector said, though his tone suggested he knew nothing of the sort. We would be most interested in speaking with her as well. Children often notice things adults overlook. I'll let her know when she gets home, Jack managed, fighting to suppress the tremor in his voice, though she's pretty shy around strangers. The inspectors completed their methodical circuit of the workshop, occasionally brushing tools or components with a disturbingly delicate touch. We will return tomorrow, the first announced, his voice devoid of warmth. There are further matters to discuss, including, he added, a smile that never touched his eyes briefly twisting his lips, your recent excursion beyond the colony's perimeter during yesterday's storm. With that chilling parting shot, they departed, leaving Jack gripping the edge of his workbench, knuckles white, struggling for stability. They knew, perhaps not everything, but enough to be lethal. Tomorrow would be too late. They had to move tonight, as soon as it was safe. Jack hastily secured the workshop, then took a circuitous, deliberately winding route towards the mining complex, constantly checking over his shoulder, his senses on high alert for any tail. When he finally reached the security office, he found Lily and Teller hunched together, poring over a scattered array of components across the desk, some undeniably from the ship, others clearly scavenged from the long-abandoned mining facility's equipment. Incredible, Lily gasped, her eyes alight as Jack arrived. We're almost there. Tyler's been showing me the gravitational fold technology, how to calibrate the dimensional stabilizers. Jack cut in, his voice tight. The shepherds visited the workshop. They know something's amiss. They mentioned the storm, our excursion beyond the perimeter, and they specifically inquired about you. Lily's radiant excitement dimmed. What did you tell them? Jack sighed. That I was visiting a friend, but they're returning tomorrow, and I doubt they believed me. He turned to Tira. We have to expedite our plans. The alien woman's tendrils pulsed with worry. The repairs are nearly finalized, but our stealth systems are still compromised. The risk of detection would be substantial. It's that, or wait for them to find us, Jack countered, his jaw clenched. And I don't believe they'll be so patient for much longer. Tira nodded grimly. Very well. We shall proceed with the accelerated timeline. Young one, she addressed Lily, your assistance has been invaluable. There is but one final piece to calibrate, and then we must return to my vessel. As Lily meticulously adjusted the delicate component under Tira's watchful guidance, Jack recounted the inspector's visit. They practically confessed to having your mother killed, he revealed, his voice laced with suppressed fury. They called her research remarkable, in a way that clearly meant it was dangerous. Lily's small hands faltered on the component. They killed Mom because of her plants? Because her work would have propelled humanity forward too swiftly for their liking? Jack affirmed. They intend to keep us reliant, developing at their dictated pace, not our own. Lily's expression hardened, a fierce determination mirroring Eliza's, a sight that pained Jack. Then we absolutely must stop them. That's precisely the plan, Jack confirmed. Starshine had painted the sky when they were ready. The mended component, a tiny crystalline device that seemed to warp light, would restore enough power to Tira's ship for a brief, clandestine jump. But first, they had to reach the vessel undetected. The shepherds will be monitoring the colony's access points, Tira warned as they departed the mining complex. And they likely possess scanners sensitive enough to register my biorhythms. That's why we're not using the main routes, Jack explained. There's an old emergency shaft that emerges about a quarter-mile from your ship. It hasn't been utilized in years. It might not even be on their radar. The shaft proved to be narrow and steep, demanding they ascend a series of metal rungs bolted into the rock face. Jack led, followed by Lily, with Tira bringing up the rear, her considerable height belied by surprising agility. They surfaced into the crisp night air, the colony's lights a distant beacon above them. The stars blazed with an unadulterated clarity, a spectacle only possible in the rarefied atmosphere of the terraformed moon. "No patrols visible," Jack whispered, scanning their surroundings. "But stay low, just in case." They navigated the rugged terrain, Jack expertly charting a winding course that utilized natural rock formations for concealment. Lily kept pace with remarkable ease, her small stature allowing her to maneuver through crevices that the adults had to carefully skirt. Upon reaching the camouflaged vessel, Jack felt a wave of relief. It remained undisturbed, the adaptive netting flawlessly concealing it against the lunar landscape. The transplanted vines, another of Eliza's ingenious innovations, had flourished, further obscuring the ship's outline. "Impressive," Tira murmured, carefully peeling back a section of the camouflage. "Your mate's foresight continues to safeguard us." A bittersweet pride swelled within Jack at her words. Eliza would have been captivated by Tira and her technology, her mind buzzing with 1,000 questions, a dozen collaborative research proposals. She would have... His thoughts were abruptly shattered by a faint hum originating from above. All three froze, their gazes snapping skyward. A dark shape glided silently against the celestial tapestry, a small craft devoid of running lights, circling with deliberate slowness. "Shepherd scout vessel," Tira breathed. "Will they detect us?" Jack asked, his voice strained. "Not if we remain motionless," she assured him. "Their technology is advanced, but it has limitations. Movement triggers their more sensitive sensors." They waited, breath held captive, as the craft completed its circuit and drifted away toward another sector of the wilderness. "We must! Hurry!" Tira urged, her fingers dancing across her ship's access panel. "They will return on a standard patrol pattern." Inside the Astral Whisper, Tira swiftly moved to the control console, holographic displays blooming to life around her, bathing the cabin in ethereal light. "The component must be integrated into the primary systems array," she instructed, handing Jack a tool that resembled a slender silver wand. "This will enable you to handle the crystalline matrix without compromising its alignment." Jack meticulously followed her directions, installing the repaired component as Lily watched, utterly captivated. As the final connection clicked into place, the ship hummed with renewed vitality. The ship hummed to life, its interior surging from a somber, cool blue to a comforting, vibrant gold, as Tira announced, "Power restoration at 67%. Stealth systems online, though limited to short-duration operation. Navigation and propulsion functional." She turned, her gaze settling on Jack and Lily. "We can now proceed with our plan." Their devised strategy was perilous, yet potentially decisive. Rather than mere escape, Tira intended to broadcast irrefutable evidence of the Shepherd's insidious interference, not only to the Astrian outpost in the Kuiper Belt, but also to every communication network across the colony. This critical transmission would encompass the damning data she'd amassed concerning suspicious fatalities throughout the solar system's various outposts. Incidents that, like Eliza's tragic death, had conveniently eradicated individuals or projects poised to accelerate humanity's progress. "Once the transmission is complete, I must depart immediately," Tira clarified, her voice tinged with urgency. "The energy signature, though masked, will be detectable despite our stealth systems." Jack's jaw tightened. "And that's when they'll come for us." "Precisely," Tira affirmed, her tendrils softening to a gentle hue. "Which is why you and Lily must be safely clear of the ship before I initiate the broadcast. I cannot guarantee your continued safety if you remain." "But we want to see you take off," Lily protested, her small voice edged with disappointment. "We helped fix your ship." Tira gracefully knelt, bringing herself to the girl's eye level, her tendrils rippling into a calming lavender. "Young one, your assistance has been invaluable, truly, but your safety is paramount. I could not bear the thought that my actions had brought you harm. Lily's lower lip trembled, a flicker of sadness in her eyes. Yet she nodded, a somber understanding dawning. Will we ever see you again? Lily whispered, a hesitant hope in her tone. Perhaps, Tira mused. Once the Shepherd's illicit actions are exposed, there will be profound changes in how the Galactic Concord engages with emerging species. Your world may well receive formal contact sooner than previously envisioned. And will you be the one to make that contact? Lily pressed, her gaze unwavering. Tira's tendrils rippled with what seemed a flicker of gentle amusement. I shall certainly volunteer for the assignment. The tender, hopeful moment was abruptly shattered by a shrill, piercing alarm blaring from the ship's console. Tira sprang to her feet, her tendrils flaring a stark, alarming red. Multiple vessels approaching, she reported, her voice taut with urgency. Shepherd patrol craft. They have detected our power signature. Jack instinctively grabbed Lily's hand, a primal instinct to protect surging through him. Time to go! Wait, Tira commanded, her long fingers dancing across the holographic controls with blinding speed. The ships are forming a perimeter. They are attempting to surround us. Her gaze met Jack's, her expression grim, etched with a stark reality. You cannot leave now without being detected, and if they find you with me. She didn't need to articulate the grim conclusion. The Shepherds would ruthlessly eliminate any witnesses, especially those who had dared to offer her aid. So we're trapped? Lily's voice was barely a whisper, laden with a child's sudden fear. Not necessarily, Tira replied, her tone slow, deliberate. There is another option, though it carries significant risk. What kind of risk? Jack inquired, exhaustion creeping into his voice. My ship is designed for single-pilot operation, Tira explained swiftly, but it can accommodate passengers. If you were to come with me. The suggestion hit Jack like a physical blow, his mind reeling. Leave the colony? Leave everything behind? It would be temporary, Tira quickly assured him, her tendrils shifting to a hopeful cerulean blue. Once the situation with the Shepherds is resolved, you could return. Or, her tendrils shimmered with a vision of boundless possibility, you could see more of the galaxy first. There are Astrian outposts where humans would be welcomed, where Lily's remarkable talents could truly be nurtured. Jack's gaze fell upon his daughter, expecting to see apprehension or uncertainty etched upon her small face. Instead, her eyes blazed with pure, unadulterated excitement. Dad, she breathed, a wondrous whisper. We could go to space, real space, not just a moon colony. We could see other worlds. It was precisely the kind of daring adventure Eliza would have embraced without a second thought. She had always been the brave one, the boundless dreamer. Jack, for his part, had always been content with his quiet life, his modest workshop. But that life had been painstakingly built around a family of 3, not 2. Without Eliza, the workshop had become merely a means to pay bills. The colony, just a place to exist rather than truly live. And now, the chilling realization that her death might not have been an accident at all. How long do we have to decide? He asked Tira, his voice raw. Minutes at most, she replied gravely. The Shepherds are closing in. Jack knelt before Lily, his hands resting firmly on her small shoulders. This is a monumental decision, Starshine, he began, his voice solemn. Bigger than anything we've ever faced. If we go with Tira, we might not come back for a very long time. Your friends, your school, our home, we'd be leaving it all behind. Lily looked at him, her gaze meeting his with a seriousness far beyond her tender years. But we'd be together, she stated simply. And Mom would want us to go. She always said, the greatest discoveries happen when you're brave enough to explore the unknown. A profound tightness bloomed in Jack's chest. Not fear, but a strange, compelling sense of rightness, as if fragmented pieces were finally aligning after years of chaotic discord. "Okay," he declared, rising to meet Tira's expectant gaze. "We're in. What do we need to do?" The alien woman's tendrils flared with an astonishing, vibrant green, radiating what could only be pure excitement or profound joy. "Secure yourselves in the auxiliary chambers," she instructed. "The transition to fold space can be disorienting for those unaccustomed to it." As Jack and Lily swiftly settled into the contoured recesses of the ship's wall, the seats instantly molded themselves to their forms, ready for the unknown journey ahead. With focused intensity, Tyler manipulated the controls, a resonant hum building within the craft as subtle tremors coursed through its frame. "The Shepherds have discovered our departure sequence," Tira reported, her voice cutting through the rising energy. "They're converging. Initiating transmission now." The vessel's internal lights pulsed rhythmically as vital data streamed outward, reaching the colony, the Astrian outpost, and communication satellites across the solar system. This broadcast carried undeniable proof of the Shepherds' deceit, their calculated sabotage, the accidental deaths they had orchestrated, tragedies like Eliza's. "Transmission complete," Tira announced calmly, preparing for an emergency fold jump. Outside, searchlights sliced across the terrain as Shepherd vessels drew nearer, rendering the Astral Whisper's camouflage utterly useless now that its systems were fully operational. "Dad, will we be all right?" Lily's small voice was remarkably steady. Jack reached across the expanse of their seats, his hand finding his daughter's. "More than all right, Starshine," he assured her. "We're going to witness the stars, truly see them, just as your mother always dreamed." Tyler's voice, amplified by the ship's escalating power, declared, "Fold jump initiating. 3, 2, 1. The external vista warped, colors and forms twisting as if reality itself were stretching. Jack experienced a fleeting pressure, neither pleasant nor painful, but profoundly alien. Lily's grip tightened on his hand, and then they were elsewhere. The turbulent moon vanished, replaced by the profound velvety black of deep space, dotted with stars of an unimaginable brilliance. Through a viewing port, Jack saw the distant sun reduced to a single brilliant point among countless others. "Jump successful," Tira confirmed, a triumphant note in her melodic voice. "We have outmaneuvered the Shepherds, for now." Lily's restraints released, and she immediately pressed herself against the viewing port, her eyes wide with awe. "Dad, look! It's so beautiful!" Jack joined her, his hand resting on her shoulder. The infinite expanse of space lay before them, breathtaking and awe-inspiring. "Somewhere out there lie answers, new adventures, fresh starts," he murmured. "Perhaps the chance to reshape the cosmic order, to ensure no other family endures the pain of losing a loved one to the Shepherd's malice." "Where to next?" he asked Tira, who had joined them. The alien woman's tendrils shifted through a spectrum of colors before settling on a deep, contented gold. "First to the Astrian outpost, to ensure this evidence reaches the authorities. After that," she glanced at Lily, still mesmerized by the view, "I believe there are several systems ripe for exploration by a budding pilot." "I'm going to be the greatest human pilot ever," Lily declared with unwavering conviction. "And then I'll design ships even better than this one." "No offense intended," she added quickly to Tira. "None taken," the alien replied, a hint of amusement in her expression. "The most profound innovations often spring from those who approach established challenges with fresh perspectives." As the Astral Whisper surged towards the outer solar system, Jack felt a monumental weight lift from his shoulders, a burden he hadn't realized he'd carried for 6 long years. He had been merely surviving, trapped in the gravitational pull of his grief. Now, paradoxically, By leaving everything behind, he felt he was finally moving forward. Eliza would have adored this, he whispered, more to himself. Tira gently touched his arm, her touch warm and profoundly comforting. She is with you still, Tira said softly, in your daughter's courage, in the choices you make, and in the new horizons you now pursue. And we'll make her proud, Lily added firmly, by having the grandest adventure imaginable. Jack smiled, drawing his daughter close. The grandest adventure, he agreed, though I have a feeling it's only just begun. Beyond the viewport, the stars beckoned, each a promise of unknown worlds and unimagined possibilities. For the first time in 6 years, Jack Harmon looked toward the future not with resignation, but with hope, with purpose, and perhaps, just perhaps, with the nascent stirrings of joy.